Hello, welcome. Can you hear me? Welcome to the Rotary Club of Cincinnati and the beautiful Queen City Club. Kind of nice to be on a road show from time to time. Did anybody use the valet parking today? Kind of, all right, well, I guess not. Well, we have another exciting program in store. We welcome Brigadier General Kimberly Peeples. Brigadier General Peeples is a senior military officer for the Great Lakes and Ohio River region of the Army Corps of Engineers. With all the water that has fallen on us today, it's particularly timely that you're here telling us about water management. Thank you very much for being with us. As we do, we are going to begin our meeting with the national anthem, conducted by and led by Director Bill Stilley, followed by the invocation and four-way test by Kay Atkins.
Please join me.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, President Steve. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Please join me in prayer. Dear God of the universe, we appreciate all that we have, including the challenges we face in our work and in our personal lives. Our challenges are opportunities to learn and grow within our families and in our communities, to promote peace and understanding. We are grateful for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and all that they do in our region and the nation. Their leadership, strategic planning, and engineering expertise contribute enormously to our safety, clean water, good health, and well-being. The sustainability of our Great Lakes and Ohio River region are well served by the Corps. Being members of Rotary International and of this club affords us many opportunities for service above self. We can maintain and improve our club, our local community, and even work with Rotary clubs in other countries on the critical issues they have identified. We can serve together to advance international understanding and goodwill. We are especially glad for the fun, camaraderie, joys, birthdays, and laughter that we share in fellowship. Thank you for the meal today and for those who prepared and serve it. Amen. Now, let us repeat the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
You may be seated. Thank you, Kay, for those beautiful thoughts. Thank you, Bill, for that national anthem, though the pitch was a little high for me, but now I'd like to invite Dan Long to welcome our guest prospective members and talk about Membership Month of March.
Well, I'd like to introduce a prospect, but unfortunately, she left at the last minute, but she left a memory of herself here on the wall. Sorry. For those of you that don't know, I have declared the month of March as being Membership Month. And of course, every meeting, every month is a membership month, but this is very special. And it's special because of several things. Number one, if you want social, we have social. We're going to have a happy hour at the Hotel Kenley, downtown Cincinnati during March. We're going to have Rotary after hours at the Brandstedter's house in March. If you want speakers, we have John Muller, the CEO of Procter & Gamble. We have Becky Boulou, I believe that's where you pronounce her name. She's the director of the Taft Museum. So we've got some couple of great speakers. And if you want programs, we have the Jefferson Awards program coming up. And then we also have, on the day of Reds opening day, we have the Reds breakfast. So we will have certainly a baseball program that day. So I think that we have something for all prospects to really be interested in. So I really hope that you would put your cap on and really think seriously about planning this week or the next week. Get on the phone, contact somebody, and bring them to one of these events. Gary Walton and I will be at the exit. This is the month of March. These are the different events. So we've got a calendar here, so you can refer to it. And then also keep in mind that in July, we're going to have for all those that brought a member that ended up becoming a member of the Rotary Club, we will have a drawing for a free lunch for the year. So please, I know you don't need motivation, but that would be a pretty good motivator right there. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Dan, thank you so much for leading membership development. It's a lot more fun when there are more friends and we can expand our reach. Now for a word from our meeting sponsor about some good work that they're doing in the community. Bob Buechner, come on up.
Thank you, President Steve. I need your help. Since 1999, there have been over 1 million deaths in this country from overdoses. Currently, to put it in perspective, there are 15 deaths per hour nationally. We, the Heat Charity, have produced a video with the help of our member, Lori Quinlaven, that basically deals with fentanyl problems, marijuana, and date rape drugs. This video is available for your viewing through E-Raise, and I believe President Steve may send out the other links that break it down a little bit. But essentially, how you can help is, number one, look at our video. Number two, get it to people in your life that are vulnerable. I have 3 clients who have lost adult children to drug overdoses. One lady said fentanyl took her son's life in 5 minutes. This is very serious stuff. These people were devastated, and I feel for them, and I feel for anybody who has to go through this. But we can help. You can help. Please look at the video. Get it to people that you think are vulnerable. And with regard to high school students, ask them to take it back to their high school and get it either shown in assemblies or put on the high school website or wherever. These videos are well done, and they contain very important information. The thing that Dr. Samarco has said is that's a very good start, but she also would like to see there be a health class curriculum in the state of Ohio that kind of mandates that these videos be seen by everybody. If any of you have any idea how we can do that, please see me after this meeting. I'm very interested in trying to follow through and make sure that these drug education videos are seen by every high school student in the state of Ohio. Thank you.
What does HEAT stand for?
HEAT stands for Holistically Empowering All Teens.
Holistically empowering all teens. Bob, thank you for your passion for HEAT and for the videos that you and Lori have produced. They are excellent, and we will share them with the membership. I could have used an extra cup of Joe this morning, but here to tell you about our next neighborhood coffee, your friend Michael Schatzman.
Thank you, President Steve. Is Sarah Pattison here today? Oh, Sarah, there we go. Sarah, 2 minutes on the clock, please. 2 minutes. Can I start? Ready? Go. Okay. Now, why did I say put 2 minutes on the clock? Sarah wants us to shorten our announcements and keep them under 2 minutes, and I told her I would do that. But then I explained, well, Sarah, you know, my opening act is more than 2 minutes. And she went, no, 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 in her mom voice. And so she scared me more than Melinda Kelly down there giving me the business one day when I'm at the podium. So we're getting there. I'm going to use every damn second of it, too. So anyway, join us for our next coffee. It's the last Tuesday of February, the 28th. It's at a little mom and pop shop called I Am Coffee. Not I Am Robot, not I Am Woman, I Am Coffee. And we want you all to be there and join us to support a locally owned business. It's in St. Bernard, easy to find, easy to get to. Sarah, time. 1 minute, 5 seconds. Woohoo! See Bill Shula, it can be done.
That took another 10 seconds. Few announcements. Thank you, Michael. Birthdays. Well, birthdays. We only have one birthday this week. It's Bafor Archery. Happy birthday, Bafor, on the 20th. A Rotary shout out to Lori Quinlivan. Your documentary, Living with Landslides, will air on CET this Saturday, February 18th at 7 p.m. And again, Friday, February 24th at 9 p.m. The Hillside Trust commissioned Quinlivan to produce the documentary to help citizens understand the landslide threats in our region's hillsides. The 44-minute film shows why our region is a top landslide area in the country and profiles homeowners whose investments have been devastated by the landslides. Congratulations, Lori. Split the pot. Split the pot. I don't have the bowl. Is there a split the pot representative who can draw? Am I missing the bowl? Oh, I didn't recognize it in this basket. All right, so let's see the total today. Winner will receive $33. The big pot, the revolving pot, is up to $13.44, and there are 23 cards left. All right, we have the last 3 digits are 139. Do we have a 139 ticket winner with us today? 139, check again, Mr. Fisher. Looking for the Queen of Hearts. The pot continues to grow. So close. Thank you, Fred. All right, there are 22 cards left. All right, Rotary Due Days. Rotary Due Days is coming up in October 26th through 28th, in its expanded format. We're looking for some corporate volunteers because they were a huge part of this year's success. They want to redouble those efforts for next year. If your company is interested in being part of this year's due days, contact Owen Rassman or Brett LaBar. I know Owen is here. Want to wave a hand, Owen? So get your corporate sponsorships and bring your companies to Owen, and let's get signed up for Rotary due days for October. And one more announcement for our hands-on service project that will be happening at Habitat for Humanity this Saturday, February 18th. What time is that, Bob? 8:30. 8:30 a.m., Habitat for Humanity, but you sign up through Bob Branstetter. Wave your hand, Bob. Thank you, Bob, for spearheading that effort. All right. Well, I'd like to turn the program over to Jack Scott to introduce our speaker. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, President Steve. Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. It is my pleasure today to introduce our speaker, Brigadier General Kimberly A. Peeples. General Peeples assumed the command of the LRD, which is Lake and Rivers Division, in June of 2021. Now, it just so happens that our office is located at 550 Main Street, just a few blocks from here. The LRD is one of 9 divisions that we have. 8 serve our national footprint. 1 serves internationally. It's the transatlantic division. So it's pretty cool that Cincinnati houses one of the 9 major regions. The Corps was founded in 1802, and as part of the division in which General Peeples operates, she actually has 7 districts, and I think you saw all of those probably in our message today. The drainage shed for that is 214 million acres. Just imagine, 214 million. It's huge, and it's so critical to us. But that's just part of what they do. They have a lock and dam system on the Ohio River, which contains the Meldal and Markland. Many of you have navigated through those. I imagine Fred Fisher has, for sure, on his fishing trips. The flood control effort also includes hundreds of dams and hundreds and thousands of miles of levees that protect various cities throughout the United States. And there's also a military component of that, and it includes many bases, but to us, the closest ones to us are Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Fort Knox, Fort Campbell, and things of that nature. General Peeples is a graduate of the Army Command and General Staff College and the U.S. Army War College. She also has an MS in construction management from the University of Washington, plus a master's degree from the U.S. Army War College in strategic studies. She's highly decorated, having received the Legion of Merit Award, the Bronze Star, the Defense Meritorious Service Award, the Meritorious Service Medal, the Army Commendation Medal, the Joint Service Achievement Medal, General Douglas MacArthur Leadership Award, and she has enough oak leaf clusters to make it look like spring here in Cincinnati. She has worked in both the White House and the Pentagon. Her deployment has included a stint with Operations Joint Endeavor in Bosnia and 2 deployments to Operation Iraqi Freedom. And that's quite a sacrifice to make when you think about someone who's raising a family that has to be away for those long periods of time. General Peeples grew up in Akron, but now she and her husband live in Alexandria, Kentucky, which is where I live as well. They have a 10-year-old son who's very active within the community. And by the way, her husband John is a retired Army officer as well. They enjoy traveling, outdoors activities, and sports in the small amount of time that they have that they can do that together. Please help me today in welcoming General Kimberly A. Peeples. You're very welcome. Thanks.
No.
Oh, yeah, you do. You got to take it.
Okay, thank you. Test. Did I do it? Okay. All right. Thank you. I can learn still, thank goodness. Well, this is such an honor. Jack, first I want to say thank you. It's hard when you hear your life introduced in that way, but it is just an honor not only to serve. I've mentioned this to a few of you already. I just absolutely love what I do and what I've been able to do over this time. Supremely blessed. So I'm excited today to share a little bit about the Corps, my life, and then we can take this wherever you want it to go. Thank you, President, for including us in your program today, and all of you for your attendance. Do I need a timer in the back? I think actually Louis, this is Louis Munoz. He's a lieutenant, and he is the one that is chartered with keeping me on track, of course. He's the smart one of the two of us. So this is Louis, by the way. Louis is from Arizona. He has a one-year assignment in Cincinnati. They're living right across the bridge as well in Kentucky. Nothing against Ohio, and we'll talk about that, of course. But he's married, and they have a one-year-old that they're raising. They spent their first tour in Germany, so really interesting career thus far. Louis is a West Point graduate, and he'll go on from here to go to Fort Leonard Wood for engineer school, and he'll become a company commander of one of our engineer forces next. So we're excited for Louis. All right, thanks, Louis. All right, next. So just a little bit about me, and I do look forward to meeting all of you. We really love this community, and you heard from Jack. I've been assigned here going on 2 years. I grew up in Ohio. I actually was born in Kansas City. I didn't want to mention that. Because between Kansas City and growing up in Akron as a Browns fan, I'm all confused. I know. The good news is my husband's a Packers fan, so that puts us in, kind of neutral ground, right? Good space. And I've bought several items of gear that say Bengals, so to include a MAGA shirt, fair weather, whatever you want to call it, but it was a great year. Great 2 years so far. So this is me. I don't have my baby picture here, but you can get a sense for how I came to be where I am today. Started my journey at West Point, and that's the picture on the right. I was very determined. I am not from a military family, at least I say that, and now in hindsight, of course, once you're in the military, you realize you just didn't know because people didn't talk about their history. So my uncle was in the Air Force. I've had, Army career. One of my very close uncles that practically raised me served in Korea. He just never talked about it. So military was not part of my growing up there in Akron. And I really happened upon West Point. I had a friend of a friend that told me about it. He went there a year ahead of me, and I thought it sounded neat, that it would be a good opportunity. My dad was very happy because he wouldn't have to pay for college, and so that's where we started. I was married in that picture. My husband is retired military, and after so many years of shaving, he's done with it, so he's got a big beard now, and just a wonderful man. Served. He's an infantry officer, retired as a lieutenant colonel, and then since he's been helping me raise our son, Vanderbilt, who is the 10-year-old in the picture. We also have 3 grown children that are in Minnesota, and just a wonderful family. And then that's my dad, and my dad is really, my dad and my grandparents, heart and soul of who I am today, and I know you all have similar stories, but really strong family. We're Catholic, so we had a big family of families raising me to bring me, here today, and was really a strength. My mom passed away when I was 8, and so he raised the 2 of us girls, and then he was remarried, and so anyway, the family became big and wide. And I'm here because of that journey of family and faith and service to the nation. Okay, next. So the career, you heard some of the highlights. It's just been a really neat career. Started off doing float bridging in Fort Hood, Texas. Didn't want to go to Texas. I don't know how many from Ohio ever wanted to go to Texas. I was not, that was not on the top of my list, but I was supposed to go to Panama, and then we closed the bases in Panama, so I ended up in Texas, and it was the best thing for me. Fort Hood is our largest base, and of course, the operational side of the Army is exactly where you want to start your career, and it was really cool. I'll just put it that way, what I needed. We deployed to Bosnia. If you remember the bridge, there were some bridge incidents, and that was not my bridge. We bridged the second. But just fascinating to be part of that as a new lieutenant, figuring out how to maneuver and what peacekeeping was and how we fit in the world. Fast forward through the career, did mostly building as part of the engineers. You can kind of do two things as an Army engineer. You either build things or you blow things up. So I did mostly building, and I've really built things my whole life. Bridging has been something that has just come through, and I would say, now at this rate or rank, my job is to build bridges between people mostly, and maybe resourcing, but it's just been a neat theme in my life. I was part of the 2003 initial group that went to Iraq. I was serving actually in the Corps of Engineers. I had just finished grad school, ended up in Kansas City District, and they called for engineers from across the Corps to form the Phase 4 planning team of what would happen after. And there's a sordid history of those times, but very proud of what we were able to do. And I actually helped the Iraqis rebuild bridges there, so it's pretty fascinating. You can actually fit $7 million in a Foot Locker. It's pretty cool. What happens when there's no banking system and there were no, this was the way that we had to do banking to restart the economy. Pretty fascinating times. But anyway, the journey went there, and then you heard the rest in terms of career. Very interested, if anyone is interested in any of the other assignments that I've had, please let me know. But I went from Iraq and bounced back and forth through operational units. I did serve in the White House Military Office, which does a lot of the behind the scenes for the executive branch. And that was one of the assignments where I realized that how strong this country is, and it transcends presidents to presidents. It's just a beautiful thing to be part of the DC world in that way. And then the Pentagon, of course, is the NUG work for Department of Defense and what we do every day, which many of you know better than I do, being a part of it. And then to land back, then I went to a garrison, so city management. Is anyone in city management? Public works or mayors or things like that. I ran basically 2 Army towns. One is at Carlisle Barracks in Pennsylvania. The other is Joint Base Meyer-Henderson Hall. That is the base that's right next to Arlington National Cemetery. You may have seen a sign for it one of those times. It houses the old guard, so all of the soldiers that are on the watch in Arlington National Cemetery, those were my customers, plus the retirees and everyone else that served there. So it's really neat. And then when the Chief of Engineers, next slide, I think we have Chief of Engineers, he asked me, he said, Kim, I want to send you to Cincinnati and come back to the Red Castle side of the Corps. I'll talk to you a little bit about that, which is more civil works focused with some military programs as well. I was like, are you sure? It's been a while, really, since Kansas City District Corps of Engineers. And then he said Cincinnati, of course, and I was like, I'm coming home. So it could not have been a better opportunity for me, and I'm blessed every day for it. So Cincinnati, your home, would you raise your hand if you're from Cincinnati? Okay, how many of you, keep your hands up, how many of you have visited Akron? Okay, most of you, yeah. Everybody else goes up. So what's interesting I've found about growing up is that when my dad would take us on vacations, we would go east and west, or north and east. So we would go to Washington, D.C., or the Niagara Falls, Michigan, Chicago, but we didn't come south very much. I don't know why. So I didn't have a lot of familiarity with Cincinnati when I was stationed here. We drove in to find a place to live, and just cannot believe how beautiful it is down here and why we didn't come down here more often. But we're part of the town, not only working in Cincinnati and living in northern Kentucky, and we just love it. And Jack and we've talked multiple times, but this is a place that we can see, living, and it feels just like how we grew up in Akron. So I'm here, and I'm really proud to represent the Army Corps of Engineers. And today I'm watching my time because I want to give you a chance for any questions. But our Chief of Engineers is Lieutenant General Spellman. He's a 3-star. He has multiple roles, and I'll describe what those are in a minute. There he is. So he's the Chief of Staff of the Chief of Engineers, where he is the key advisor to the Secretary of the Army and the Chief of Staff of the Army. So that's the black triangle on the right-hand side. He has 3 hats. So the second hat is the Commander of the Corps of Engineers. And one more time, raising your hands interactively, how many of you are familiar with the Corps of Engineers? Obviously you are, Jack, you told me, in depth. Okay, perfect. So if I tell you something today that you already know, just somebody can give me a gesture to say keep moving. But as the commander of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, he is a commanding general. So he's responsible for about 30,000 civilian employees and 800 military employees. That makes up the Corps worldwide. We'll talk about where we are. In his black triangle, and the chief of branch of the engineers, so that's Louis wearing our branch. If you're in active duty, National Guard, or reserves and wear the uniform, that is that OCP branch. There's about 90,000 engineers, and we need more. So we need more civilians, and we need more. I'll talk to you all in this room of where I could use your help, is how we can do better with recruiting in every component to serve in this way. Okay, Lou, if you could just go back. So the Chief of Engineers, General Spellman, when he took over, it's usually a 4-year tour, he rebranded the Red Castle. So if you've been through one of our locks and dams, you know the red symbol that's protected. He said, okay, let's rethink the Corps, because the Corps is too slow and we're too expensive and we regulate, right? You probably had some experience. Let's connect better. So he took the castle, he opened the windows, turned the lights on, he put down the moat. You notice that the moat is dry. Sorry, he put down the drawbridge and the moat is dry. And his charge to all of us in the Corps of Engineers is be better partners, be more transparent, let's connect better and serve better, because it is taxpayers that are funding this civil works projects, obviously, as you know, are funded both through Congress, through our taxes, but also federal partners, community partners or cost share partners have something to say about that as well. And so anyway, I just think that's a neat way that he's really inspired in us a change in attitude. Those are our priorities, the chief's priorities, and then our vision. Really, we're your engineer. We're the nation's engineer. Next slide. And that dates back to the upper right, which is General George Washington appointed a colonel, active duty colonel, to be his engineer in 1775. 1802. The country realized they needed an engineering school, so they set up West Point as the first engineering school in America. And that's pretty neat. It used to graduate only engineers, and then slowly but surely now they graduate infantrymen and armor and other folks, which we're happy for, right? But it's still a premier engineering school, and really proud of those roots. Well, then we had legislation from Congress actually before legislation, I'm sure this was all legislated. I just forget which which ACTA was, we began opening federal navigation channels, which of course you know, became the locks and dams system. And this region is the historical base of that. Started in Pittsburgh from the headwaters of the Ohio River, which is in Pittsburgh and Three Rivers, all the way through Ohio, and now connected to the inland waterway system on Mississippi River. Then the Corps of Engineers, based on flooding in the 30s, we picked up the mandate in his Red Castle Corps of Engineer role to assist with flood risk mitigation. And I don't have to tell anyone in this room about the history of the flooding that happened in this basin and why we do what we do. Then in the 70s, we became also focused on environmental restoration. Primarily in the Corps, it's aquatic ecosystem restoration projects, but it's partnering with EPA. We heard, Kay, you mentioned with water quality, we partner with Orsenco and many, many other agencies to make sure that we can have a good and healthy environment. That's a Everglades restoration project that the Corps is doing. And then we also do work for others, so we are engineers for NASA, for the VA, Veterans Administration. Actually, we build their hospitals and big construction projects. So Louisville, as an example, our Louisville district is building VA Louisville, which is a really exciting new hospital in our region. Next. And so, let's see. I briefed this. Next. And I just wanted to show, just to highlight again, we are a lot of places, and next slide, Louis, we're really busy. So we have a historic, based on the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act and a number of supplementals based on the flooding and issues that have happened in this region. We're at record workload, and we take that seriously again because those are taxpayer dollars. We want to make sure that they're getting the output that they need. This is just an example, and I have the slides if you're interested, and you can take them so we don't brief them. But the different mission sets and the money that is going against those. And really just to say that if you are, as part of the transparency in industry, the military, primarily the Army, and a lot of what we all do is related because the engineers translate process improvement or design or construction and marketing in everything. You'll be able to see how you could play or have a role or have a part in helping us do what we do better. And I just appreciate that. We have our own labs. We have a number of construction and engineering labs. We work cold weather, design, you name it, the Corps has a role in it. And then is theoretically very well synchronized with other federal research organizations and private entities. All right, so let's skip, next slide, Louis. Let's go to our civilian workforce. I mentioned, I think you all know, many of you raised your hands. We have all the technical skills of a business, plus we are the DoD's Army engineering and construction firm. So if you have folks in mind that are looking for work, we're growing based on our budget. We need, just in this region across the 7 districts, about 250 employees. And I would say with a turnover of about 10% that everybody's seen, I think there's like 450 active recruitments across our region right now for one of these technical skills. Next. I talked about that, engineering and research, our labs. And then I really want to, I'll hit this, and Louis, let's then go to the basins briefly. I'm not doing great with time. In terms of national emergencies, I just wanted to hit the connectivity and why I think it's super important that we stay in touch with each other. So we're responsible for support to the states for emergencies, and we do that based on, there is a Corps of Engineer district, one of our 43 districts, assigned a state. So Ohio is assigned to Huntington district, Huntington, West Virginia. Our boundaries are wonky because they're around watersheds. They're not state by state. And so, but that being said, those state boundaries mean a lot, especially in emergency response, because we're federal government, states' rights and communities obviously are in charge. So we do everything by, with, and through FEMA and or our own flood fighting authorities, which would be today if there was a flood, some things that Louisville district, who covers We have 5 districts, by the way, that cover Ohio. So therefore, it's important that we have one district that it knows the governor, meets, and we do a state partnering meeting with the state to make sure that all of those red castles from different districts aren't confused. It's one door, one core to support the nation. Okay, next. I just will hit the regions you mentioned. Jack, this is how the Corps is organized. I am on the 10th floor. We own the 10th floor. We rent from GSA, the 10th floor of the federal building right down the street. So every day I commute over the bridges and do everything, and we have about 100 employees that are working in the federal building on the 10th floor. We don't do anything. The districts do everything, but we are an extension of General Spellman here in your community, and then we coordinate all of the activities of our 7 districts across. And you can see 9 general officers that split the country, and then I showed you the regional. You heard from Jack, we also cover overseas. Next. All right, so the Ohio Great Lakes, I have capitalized that, so I push Ohio State, even with the Michiganders that tell me blue and gold. Okay, so we like everybody, but I do push Ohio. I MOH. Those are our districts, and you can see the numbers of what we do. We have about 5,000 civilian professionals, about 50 military that are in this division, headquartered here. And next. And let's just talk about, this is how we look. So if you go, there's 3 Great Lakes regions that handle the Great Lakes watershed, and their headquarters in Chicago, in Detroit, and in Buffalo. The Buffalo district handles Lake Erie and the northern bit of Ohio, so it's a little not intuitive. But we make sure, for example, the right amount of water flows over the Niagara Falls, working with the International Joint Commission. There's just some of these very odd things you think, now that I'm in command, wow, somebody does have to do that. That's the Corps. That's part of what we do with many partners. There are 2 senior executives. I am going to introduce them and make sure that they know and they're more connected, because we come and go every 2 to 3 years, but those senior executives provide the continuity that's behind the Corps. And then along the Great Lakes, managing the Ohio River, we start in Pittsburgh, Huntington, Louisville, and Nashville. And Nashville district is also responsible for the Tennessee and Cumberland. And working with TVA, because we don't own the infrastructure in Tennessee, but we operate and maintain it. And many of you vacation at most of these Corps properties, Rough River or Cumberland or somewhere. Those are rec sites that are managed or operated through the Corps. All right, and the last thing, and I'm probably pushing up with no time for questions. Let's go to just the basin slides, Louie. So the Great Lakes watershed and subbasin, you heard about it. It's internationally managed, which we're really proud of. So I have a seat as a co-chair on 3 boards as part of the International Joint Commission to make sure that we do things like regulate with Canada the right amount of water that goes into the hydropower, et cetera. And really cool, really neat. The military boundaries are different. We only have 1 district, Louisville district, that handles the military construction throughout. So if you may only know Louisville district if you do military construction. Everyone else does civil works. And then the next slide is on, these are some, did you know that the Great Lakes have more shoreline than all the other coasts combined? We call it the North Coast now that I've been in command. It's kind of neat. So we have the North Coast, and then next is the Ohio River Basin watershed, which you're more interested in, likely because you see it every day and you touch it and you've had experiences on it. Really neat watershed. So this map shows you the main basin, the sub-basin, but we're really part of the Mississippi basin. And I always like to put that in context because a lot of folks think about the Mississippi River and they forget about the Ohio River. So where we could use your help is we're working with a lot of entities to bring more focus on this basin. And we've heard some visions of people saying, wouldn't it be nice if you drove in to this area and you saw a big sign that said, welcome to the Ohio River Basin. like the Chesapeake does or something. This is an important, really important basin, and I have a seat on the Mississippi River Commission, so twice a year I go on the vessel and we go down the Mississippi River and we listen to constituents along. They get a loud voice because of that legislation for good reason. But there is a piece of everybody on that trip really says, we can control what happens on the Mississippi, but we can't control what happens that comes from the Ohio, because we can't really regulate the Ohio River. So it's just really been a fascinating bit of time. There's a lot of initiatives going right now to talk to congressional delegations on the importance of the basin, how we can best coordinate and cooperate to help manage it in all those ways. But that's really what I wanted to say today, and just welcome you to our mission and to our partnership in any way or whatever way. Jack knows how to get in a hold of me, and I'll make sure the president has my information, but I think I probably went right up to the time, so. We have time. You have any time? Does anyone have any questions? Okay, all right, I will come. Thanks, Louie.
We have time for questions.
Okay, I think I'm mic'd up, so I'll come here and yes.
Yes. We've heard that there's a tremendous drought affecting both the Northeast and the Mississippi River. Is that affecting the Ohio River basin?
Very interesting. So, of course, for some of you impacted by the low water on the Mississippi with your devices, it's big news. And so they look, of course, to the Ohio River for water. And we didn't have as much water, but we did help. Kentucky and Berkeley, those reservoirs were able to regulate through water management to do more releases so that we can send a little bit more water down. But we didn't have as much as they needed, I guess, to your the drought didn't get us as bad, but it wasn't as plentiful as it could. Now things have changed, fortunately. So once we came out of the water on the Mississippi, things equaled out. And we expect on the Ohio, we're in our flood season. This is our spring flood season. From our water managers, Jack, you asked me how we do it. We have water managers that all they do every day is watch the levels of the rivers, and they're releasing reservoirs based on facts, based on studies and limits. We're in the core, very technical people. If we deviate from one of our water control manuals, we have to get approval at various levels. That's because we've studied it, and that's the best that we can do with managing what we have. So we do we do manage that tightly and closely. Looks like this flood season is in line with what we've had in the past. So they're not seeing any big concern in terms of record-setting levels in the Ohio River Basin. We'll hear from the Mississippi. From what I've been briefed on, it's all relatively common. What we aren't able to anticipate are these big flash flood incidents that happen in eastern Kentucky. As an example, where there's geography, just have the reservoirs and controls from history to be able to help manage that, so we're more than responsible. But we are helping, for example, in eastern Kentucky, the Corps of Engineers go out and they'll mark high water levels and then work to see if there's any more planning or something that we can do on the state of Kentucky. Did I answer your question?
No. Thank you for being here this morning. Coming from Akron and with the recent rail accident in East Palestine, have you had concerns about environmental impact of that accident and how it might affect the watershed?
Very great question. So we go into emergency action and we work with the state to see if we're needed, and we kind of stand by. Generally, right now, the state is managing that, and water quality is not or we assist with water quality and how we manage or push water, open dams, and different types of things. But we're standing by in terms of water quality from the EPA and those things. So right now, what I know is about maybe the news. I think they're still working to determine things, but I don't know. USACE starts to manage it, and then reaches out to all the authorities. The Great Lakes and the coordination amongst the states in this region is really fascinating and really strong. So I'd say that you should be proud of the history of Ohio. Back in the back.
Yeah, for the benefit of the folks back here in the peanut gallery, any chance you could use the microphone?
Oh, yes. Okay, sure. Does this work with it being mic'd?
It works better.
And mic'd, okay, sorry about that. Yes?
Is the Army Corps of Engineers involved in any way about mediating or resolving the invasive species in the Great Lakes, such as lampreys and others?
Great question. We are part of the coordinating committee. We have an electric barrier that is working very hard to keep invasive carp out of the Great Lakes that might come up because we have the connection through the Illinois waterway from the lakes. That's really the main connection. Teams are looking at every other possible bit of connection in terms of a storm where those invasive species, carp primarily, could impact the Great Lakes. It's huge. And actually they found a carp, you probably saw that. They located a carp in one of the small ponds just before, it was in Illinois, but past our barrier, and it was just like all hands on deck. Everybody went electrofishing. We all looked to see it. Looked like it probably got through on a vessel, or I don't know, but they didn't find anything else, and so far so good. But there is a lot of activity on that, and we're engaged in it. They're also looking at the impacts in Tennessee and Barkley, Kentucky and Barkley, and what we might be able to do there along the watershed there. Thanks, that's a great question. And carp, I know a lot more about carp than I ever thought I would.
Thank you for the presentation. Very interesting. I'm also from Cleveland, so I understand the Browns. Yes.
I know, you gotta have
how are you bringing this education to students? It seems like it would be fascinating.
So we need your help. We do not tell our story well. And if any of you are surprised by what I just briefed, I was surprised. And I've been in the Army almost, 29 years, and there's still things I'm learning every day. So we do initial outreach, but I met yesterday with the Secretary of the Army in Chicago. So it's no surprise. We're not meeting our numbers for the military uniformed. And we're not meeting our numbers, well, we're growing in civil work. So we need more of an organization to build. So that's what we are talking about. There's an Army marketing agency in Chicago that's trying to help us tell a better story. Mr. Lee is actually a civilian assistant. I know Susan's here. He wanted me to do a shout out for all the work that she does. But Steve Lee in your community is helping the Secretary of the Army tell a better story because your business folks are your teachers and educators, and you all do this better than we do. I could build you a dam. I can build the Sulak. But we just can't tell our story very well. So any ideas on how we can improve STEM education, do outreach, bring students to the locks and dams? We love doing that. We have models. We're trying to figure out how to bring models to communities, or maybe there's an opportunity in one of the museums here where we could do a showcase. I'm open to it. If you have ideas, please let us know. I'd love to hear about it.
As we're seeing in California, snowpack can have a huge impact on what the water situation is going to be in the spring or in the summer. How do you guys track that in Western Pennsylvania and West Virginia, et cetera?
So generally through the close relationship we have with NOAA and the weather agencies, and all the federal agencies are so connected and coordinated because we do mapping. They tell us what, we're all figuring it out. Snowpack, so this is happening in each of the regions in a real detailed way. We didn't get as much snow this year. That really helps alleviate the flood risk. So it's this balance between, snow water equivalent and all these things that they're teaching me on how that's calculated. But yes, those water managers in each of the districts, regions, and headquarters partnered with the other federal agency, USGS, you name it, in terms of who's got the authority from the government. Does that make sense? But yes, it's big. Climate change, of course, whether you like it or not, things are changing. The patterns are changing, and that's what we're responding to. So we're just trying to figure out how to balance it, how to protect against it, how to build more resiliency into the system so that whatever happens, we're ready, I think.
That fits into my question, which is the infrastructure that was built in the 20th century. Are you needing to change that because of heavier rains?
Great. So great question. The infrastructure generally has stood. So we're doing a lot of maintenance and repair on these great engineers that stood before us. We are also removing dams that aren't needed, and I know in Ohio that's a big push as well, is to kind of return systems to more natural. So it is a mix. We're trying to look for new technology that'll be less invasive. You'll hear about engineering with nature. We're trying to find nature and natural-based solutions in addition to concrete structures and rocks and things to get after some of this mitigation. But it's all of our roles, and actually the voice of the local communities is the most powerful, and that really helps us understand what each community needs. So thank you all. Look forward to talking much more about it.
Could you stay here for just a second? We'll just do a little thank you. Brigadier General Peeples, Lieutenant Munoz, thank you so much for your presentation. As a river town, we really appreciate your efforts in particular, right? We love our waterways and our bridges and our dams. They keep this place, lush and wonderful. And in addition, I really appreciated the insight on the Red Castle side of the Army Corps of Engineers, and that Ohio River Basin signage. I will know who to thank when we see that as we're coming into the beautiful city view. I wanted to just offer you a token of our appreciation. In the Rotary Club of Cincinnati, we believe in service above self, and I noticed a couple of core values in your presentation that noted service and selfless service. We wanted to share a Rotary Club of Cincinnati coin in appreciation for that selfless service that you're doing for all of us in the Greater Lakes region and the Ohio River Valley in particular. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much.
A couple of final announcements. Jefferson Award Committee, back of the room. 4-way test speech contest, front of the room. We thank the Queen City Club for hosting us today. We'll be back in the Hilton next week for the 4-way test speech contest. It's going to be a big event. Be there if you can and invite your friends. It'll be great. Until then, make it a great week. Meeting adjourned.